Welcome to All Out Politics, 2 hours of news, debate and opinion from the heart of Westminster. Well, in the past few minutes, David Davis has said that he expects the European Union will be willing to discuss a Brexit implementation deal, a so-called transition deal, by Christmas. As he tells MPs, he hopes a quick deal will be agreed. The Brexit Secretary is currently answering questions from the Committee on Exiting the EU, which monitors him. And this comes less than a week after the remaining EU 27 countries refused to move on negotiations onto trade talks. But they did agree to make preparations internally. Here's what David Davis told the committee.
What we are intending to do is get the form of the implementation period agreed quickly. December thereafter, all right? But we want to conclude the overall negotiation, whatever the outcome may be. We want to conclude the overall negotiation by the end of March 2019. Right. So there are a number of reasons for that. I mean, one of them is, what are you implementing? What's the implementation period taking you towards? You know, are you going from where we are now to a free trade agreement? Are you going from where we are now to what you might call a bare bones agreement, which is simpler, which is WTO plus agreements on the sort of fundamentals like aviation and so on? So you need to know where you're going. The best expert I can cite from the Commission side was as an ex-trade commissioner, Carol Guth, who is very antagonistic to Brexit, but has said in terms this is eminently doable within 2 years if the political will is there.
Well, with me, our senior political correspondent, Jason Farrell, who's monitoring the committee hearing this morning. Now, Jason, two very interesting things there. One, the optimism that the transition and moving forward to the next phase will happen at the European Summit or by the European Summit in December. And two, a fresh timetable, really, on how this whole process is going to work from the government point of view, which includes negotiating right up until the day that Britain leaves the EU.
Yeah, there was some confusion because the Prime Minister had said when she was briefing the Commons that the implementation period couldn't be put in place until we knew where we were going. In other words, we'd have to have the trade partnership already in place to know what the implementation deal looked like. That's how it was interpreted. And that's what really David Davis was being questioned here. Well, you know, we thought we wanted to get this implementation deal in place so that businesses knew in advance what was happening. And the idea was that many want to know by December this year. And what he's saying is, yes, that is something that we're hoping that the form of it, the basic fundamentals of it, will be in place by December. Now, he's asked a few questions on what he wanted that to look like. It's quite interesting what he was saying. So, passporting for financial services, he said that should continue as is under the transition period. EU citizens' rights would continue, but you'd have this registration scheme. The customs agreement, he said that would look roughly the same. Trade agreements, that we would be able to continue those. He's hoping that we would effectively continue on the current trade agreements that the EU has with other countries, so those would remain in place, although he was quizzed about that because you'd have to get agreement from all the other countries as well for that to happen. The ECJ, he said that would certainly initially that we would continue to remain under ECJ rule, but that would change over the course of the transition period. So quite a few sort of details on what he thinks the transition period would look like as well. But him trying to say basically, yeah, this negotiation is going to go up to the wire, but there are a few things that we want to know the form of. But certainly no talk from him of no deal, and you've been getting a bit of background from sources close to Mr Davis, if we put it that way. Well, Mr Davis, well, I think I said I had a chat with him in the coffee queue, and he is basically saying right now, he doesn't contemplate no deal. He actually thinks right now that this is a really important time to make an impact on European officials, because right now the European Council is forming its position on what the future negotiating deal will look like. And once it gets to the Commission stage, it will become very inflexible. So expect to see David Davis and others from the Cabinet and Theresa May herself going around and talking to various leaders over this period up to Christmas to try and influence their own opinion on and what they feel the future trading relationship should look like. This is a key, crucial few months for Britain to make an influence and impact on those countries.
Jason, thank you very much indeed.